Hi and welcome to my channel, and I'm apparently Jesus by the looks of this with all this light going on. Oh dear, not the perfect time to film. That's better. Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon, and today I am back with my belated October book haul. So the books that I was sent by publishers and books that I bought myself. And oh, did I buy myself some books, but we'll come to those later because as always, I like to do the books that I was sent by publishers first. Right, first up, and this may be the idea for a possible reading vlog in due course. Sorry, I've just noticed that one of the pages is all folded over or bent or something, and I'm just trying to sort out that situation.
Oh, maybe I'll do that afterwards because it's so hot.
What Writers Read, edited by Pandora Sykes, and this is a selection of authors who have shared their favourite books within this book. 35 writers indeed. You've got Marianne Keyes, Deborah Levy, Alicia Fack, Elizabeth Day, Damon Galgut. Oh, I could go on, and I possibly will. Because what I'd quite like to do is read some of my favourite authors' favourite books from this book in a reading vlog. Probably next year though, not this year. I've got too much that I need to do before the year is through. But I thought that might be quite a nice idea. I'm going back to that page to try and sort it out. I'm also really keen to possibly get authors to record me a list of 3 books that I should really read. I've already done it with a couple, so I've got Minnie Driver and Hanya Nagahara and Damon Galgut, and I would like to do it with some more. If I could do it in real life, that would be even more amazing, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, Alicia Fack is high on that hit list. Anyway, that's that book. A book about books would be perfect in a stocking. There, I've said it, I've mentioned Christmas in November. I don't care. Then the next 2 books are books that I have been meaning to read for ages, and they are both of the crime novels by Benjamin Myers. We have Turning Blue and These Darkening Days. These came out from an indie press quite a while back, and I'm in the mood for more crime, and I love Benjamin Myers' writing, so I think these are going to be absolute hits with me, and I will see if possibly Pip would like to read one of these for a crime time in the future. We're going to be bringing crime time back, but sporadically, and that's okay. That's fine. Exciting news, which you may have seen in a previous vlog of mine, we have a new bookshop in Liverpool, and it is Dedic Books, and they are also a publisher. And I went in to go and buy some books, and they gave me a copy of Jawbone by Monica Ojeda, which I have seen in America. I think it was on the National Book Awards shortlist, I think, or possibly long list. Anyway, I'd seen it, I thought I had it, I spent ages going through my shelves. Turns out I didn't have that book at all, just one that looked similar in terms of cover. And then I just could not get hold of this, but apparently there's been some problem with distribution in paper and all sorts of drugs that I don't want to talk about. And yes, they very kindly gave me a proof, but I did buy some books as well, so that I could make sure it wasn't just me turning up and going, hi, I've come to your bookshop on opening weekend, can I have a free one? Also, they do the most amazing baked goods, so if you're ever near Dedic Books in Liverpool, make sure you pop in. Great coffee, great nibbly cakey bits, and also brilliant books. A book that I've been really excited for and was hoping would arrive through the letterbox has arrived through the letterbox, and it's Losing the Plot by Derek Owusu. And I absolutely loved Derek's debut. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I've just been waiting for this. It looks like it's really, again, sorry if there's not me giving you loads of information about what the book's about. I don't really like knowing too much before I go in, but one thing I have spotted is the way that it's written. You've got kind of little, what do you call them? I don't know what the term for that is. So that's me. I've just seen it's vignette as well. Oh, stop it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it in due course. This could be a favourite of the year, I feel like. Could be, although maybe I've jinxed it. Then a small random book from Granta. And one thing I do want to say, actually, I think I mentioned this before, that I'm not talking about books that I get from publishers. I'm currently talking about books that I get from publishers. I'm only talking about books I'm excited for that I get. I have now got a new set of shelves, which are what I'm calling the shelves of possibility. I would have preferred piles of possibility, although talking about piles on the internet is quite awkward, and you know, they're not piles, they're shelves. I just like alliteration. That's just something to say. So Whistles in the Attic is from Granta, and it's by Hiroko Oyamada, and translated from the Japanese by David Boyd. And this is short, it's sharp, it's got a freaking cute cover. I mean, there's even a tail on the back. What more could you want? Excited. Then we have Sebastian Barry's new book, On God's Time, Old God's Time. That's what it's called. I said I'd slow down, and I didn't. And now I'm tripping over my words, and it's all my own fault. I don't know if it's going to be a follow-up to the follow-up to
the book that I really like that had the rainbow on the cover, and I want to call it These Darkening Days, but that's the book by Benjamin Myers that I just talked about. The Thousand might have been a follow-up. Anyway, I could just look, couldn't I? Just not be such an absolute muppet.
Days Without End, nothing like any of the things that I was saying. I did fall in love with Sebastian Barry's writing in Days Without End. I thought it was such a beautiful, beautiful book. I haven't read the follow-up. This is reminding me that I need to, but also this is out in March 2023. And I would like to try and get to authors that I enjoy ahead of time or on time rather than constantly being behind, except obviously with backlists, because you're always behind with those, and that's fine too, and that's lovely. Then a book that I asked for from the lovely folk at Europa is Everything Calls for Salvation by Danielle Mencarelli, and this is translated by Wendy Wheatley from the Italian. It's about a young man who wakes up in 1994 and he's surrounded by strangers and he has no idea where he is or what's happened, but it soon becomes apparent that he's had a psychotic episode, and so we follow on from there. And I just think that sounds so interesting, and it's meant to be absolutely beautiful. I will say I really love the font in Europa Books. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. Then a memoir, and it is Mallory Blackman's Just Saying My Life in Words. I feel a bit of a fraud getting sent this because I've not read her books. I feel like I need to read some of her work before I read this, I think is what I'm trying to say to myself through the medium of you. A short story collection that I'm very excited about. I did take it away with me last weekend, but I didn't get around to reading it. It's Margaret Atwood's Old Babes in the Woods, her new short story collection, which comes out in March. I think these are going to be kind of fairy tales-y. We've got My Evil Mother, Two Scorched Men, Mort de Smudgy. I think it's going to be really good. And yeah, I'm annoyed though because I battered it about quite a bit, taking it with me last weekend and haven't got to it. Benjamin Myers again, but this is his next novel, and this is Goodie. I think this is about a priest, possibly, or a monk. But it says, Goodie of the rock in the foaming sea, Goodie of the marrow grass, humble Goodie, sweet Goodie, guiding light, beacon of the wandering folk of the holy man. A magical and profound love letter to the north of England. And that is enough for me. Also, I get the feeling it's a bit vignette-y. And I just love that. But also, chunky too. Vignette and chunky, two of my favourite things. Oi. I have meant to read more of this author's work since I read, was it their third book? And me and Melanie read it for book club and I wasn't too sure about it. It didn't give me everything I expected, but I think I need to go back to her debut because that's one everyone says is really spooky. Anyway, the author is Laura Purcell and this is The Whispering Muse. And I absolutely love that cover. Absolute big blooming blooms, but also in grey and white, so a little bit mysterious and gothic and oof. Apparently this is deliciously creepy, and that's all I need to know. I would, yeah, really like to get some more of her work. Now, the lovely folk at Granta very kindly sent me Eleanor Catton's Burnham Wood, which is out in March next year. I should have said this is out in February next year. So anyway, March next year. Now, I feel a bit like I don't deserve this copy because I did... Well, I was going to say I did not like. I really didn't enjoy Eleanor Catton's previous novel, The Luminaries, which won the Booker. I felt like I could just see too much of the author sort of manipulating the characters almost like puppets from above. I could see the strings and occasionally the author's hand stepping in, and I wasn't sure about it. However, I'm going to give her a go because I've heard the rehearsal is very different from The Luminaries, and then this is very different again. I think it's kind of a thriller, historical thriller, possibly. And I'm just really intrigued to, try her again and see if I get on with this. I may not, I may, but I'm intrigued either way. And that was a poem without me intending it to be. So yeah, we have Burnham Wood. Then the lovely folk at Weidenfeld and Nicholson asked if I would like a copy of The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor, which is out in February. And the reason I said yes to this, because they compared it to David...
not David Nichols, they compared it to, oh my goodness, I was going to go in and check what he'd written.
who wrote Cloud Atlas, which I didn't really get on with. Oh my goodness, why can't I remember names? I think maybe I've relaxed too much. I finished work over a week ago and I've had 2 really long weekends of chilling, and now I can't seem to remember anything about books at all. Who am I? What's going on? Where am I? What's this? David Mitchell. It came in the end. That put me off a little bit, if I'm honest. However, it's got a lot about octopi in it, or octopuses, I always forget. That really intrigued me, and so yeah, there's something in the water and they want us to leave. I mean, I should have just said that and that would have been the hook. Last but not least, from books from publishers, before we go to actually some gifts and then some books that I bought myself. Some books. A bloody load of books that I bought myself. I have Age of Vice by Dedic Kapoor, and I'm only hearing like amazing things about this from anyone who has read it on Instagram. Like, people are going wild for it. And it just says on the back, this is the age of vice where money, pleasure and power are everything, and the family ties that bind can also kill. It also, I should say, came with the most incredible box of goodies. There were chocolates, there was coffee. I mean, that made me love it all the more. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one. It's out in January, so I need to get cracking. I'd like to read some January books in December. I've decided December, the whole of December, is just going to be me reading by whim. That is it. I was thinking about doing some Christmassy books or some themed reading blogs, but no, I'm going to do 2 more theme reading blogs or possibly 3 that you'll see. I'm going to have 2 more themed reading weeks, and then that's it. He's off. Speaking of he's off, I'm going to press stop because I now need to get the piles and piles of books that I bought myself because of emotional spending, which we will discuss. And I'm back, and I should say that I'm not going to list all the books in the description below because it won't fit. There's so many coming because, as I mentioned, emotional spending. So pause this, get a cup of tea and a pen and paper or the notes app on your phone or whatever it is you keep a log of books by, and I promise I won't talk too quickly, and if you need to rewind and watch that first 16 minutes, I'm terribly sorry. Anyway, emotional spending, let's discuss very briefly the fact that it's something that I need to not do so much. I'm aware I do it. I wasn't in a very good place in October. I'd had a bumpy summer, and I think the final, well, who knows if it was the final, but the 3rd round of COVID and the chest infection that followed, it just zapped me and drained me, and then that was sort of September kind of ruined, and in October I just felt deeply miserable because I was just feeling really poorly, and I was trying to make out I wasn't, but also I just wasn't having a very good time at work, and that has now all finished, and I have had the biggest sense of relief, and funnily enough I've not been buying as many books, so yeah, what does that say? I don't know, but yeah, that's why there's so many. I think I just went into the habit of going into lots of independent bookshops and wanting to buy books, or ordering from Blackwell's or Foyles, and yeah, a bit of a time, or actually from other different independent bookshops, as we will discuss, I think, unless I've moved some of the books that I've bought, which maybe I have, but yeah, I've realised that I did a post on Instagram about my wrap-up and I've missed books that I've read, so I'm human, I make mistakes, there we go. Anyway, before we get onto the books that I bought because of my emotional spending, let's talk about the books that I was gifted by lovely friends. The first of which, speaking of work, and I just made it sound like it was all terrible. It wasn't terrible. I made some lovely friends. It was just that final few months. One of the brilliant friendships that I made was with Marusha, and Marusha bought me The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. She didn't know, though, that I have already read it. It's one of her favourites. I really enjoyed this. I think I had moments where I felt a bit bored. I know this isn't a wrap-up video. There is a wrap-up video coming. In fact, there are a couple of wrap-up videos possibly coming. But I love what it said about gender and the fact that none of the characters have gender, and yeah, I enjoyed it. So, but it was lovely, and I don't have a copy of it anymore, and I will treasure that one because it's from Marusha. And then the lovely Catherine Hall, who came on my channel a while back, I will find that video and link it down below, where she had a nosy through my bookshelves. My friend Sam Kenyon has this book out, and it's I Am Not Raymond Wallace, and it's from Incandescent, which is a small publishing house, and inside she's written, "Dearest Simon," I mean, what author signs another author's book? Catherine? And it's also come with a Gaze the Word bookmark, which you can't go wrong with. And it will be the only bookmark that I will use for this book. But it says, "Dearest Simon, aka Uncle Sugar Bear, aka Sugarsy." This is the sugar bear that I have in dedication to lots of friends' children who call me Uncle Sugar Bear, but it started with Catherine's. We're going on a massive story about my life there. Sorry about that. Let's move on. Hope you like this. It's definitely one for the gays. Now, she also told me it's a beautiful story, but full of naughty shagging. And that sounds like my kind of thing. So thank you very much, Catherine, for that. What lovely friends I have. And being lovely to myself when I was feeling emotionally weak, here we go with quite a lot of books, even though I think I've moved to somewhere else, but never mind. The first of which is Alison Moore's Eastmouth and Other Stories. And I love Alison Moore's writing. He said, I think is one of my favourite books ever. I will say though, this is a really odd size. Like if you compare it to another paperback, and I didn't think these size books feel really 60s and 70s to me. I'm not sure if that's Salter just changing the size of their books or what, but yeah, anyway, that just occurred to me, frankly, so there we go. But yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this. I do have Alison Moore's first collection of short stories, but I think I might head to this one first, even though it's the second. So if you kept up with that, well done. This is another book that was up for the National Book Awards, like Jawbone was. It's Kibogo by Scholastic Mukasonga, and I have meant to read their book. Is it Queen of the Nile? I think that might be wrong. Our Lady of the Nile. For ages, it was one of the BBC Jubilee reads, and I have it. But then I saw this being talked about, and people just saying it was incredible, really, really powerful. And it was just the right moment when it was on the National Book Award shortlist, and it influenced me, frankly. Speaking of influenced, I bought this because of Ben Green, who I adore. I'll link his channel down below. This is A Brief History of My Body by Billy Ray Belcour. Billy Ray Belcour's debut novel was up for the Giller Prize, and I wanted to read that, but I couldn't get my mitts on it, so I thought, oh, I'll try this, especially after I saw Ben raving about it. So this is non-fiction. It is non-fiction November. So far, non-fiction November. I've read no non-fiction books, so maybe this one actually is one I should head to very soon. As is this non-fiction, which I bought myself. It's I Remain in Darkness by Annie Ernaux. And I have wanted to read Annie Ernaux since she won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And this one appealed to me out of all of them because it's about Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is something that I find incredibly emotive because I have personal links with it and family members, but also something that I feel we need to know more about. And so, yeah, that one just appealed to me. And I think when you're heading to an author that's new to you, part of me is like, oh, I must go back to the very beginning and work through it chronologically. But actually, sometimes it can be really good to just head to the one that sounds the most to you, and then off you go. I have collected all this author's books as well so far, all three of them, and not read a single one. But I couldn't not buy Bronte's Pennell's latest book because of the title. And it's called Johnny, Would You Like Me? Or sorry, Johnny, Would You Love Me If My Dick Were Bigger? And that was enough for me. Apparently it's a bit of cult classic, and yeah, I just think it's going to be brilliant. And I want some sort of naughty, salacious books. I felt more inclined for those books actually on and off since I read Just by Looking at Him by Ryan O'Connell. And I think, why not? That's a genre of books actually I've just realised I really, really want to read more of. Naughty, salacious, and possibly a little bit shocking and titillating. Ooh, doesn't that sound like a good 2023 if I read lots of those? Then a book that I saw in London Review bookshop was Interiors by Jessica Widner, and I'd never heard of this book before. I really, really love the cover. I hadn't heard of the publishers, the 87 Press, and when I read this, I was like, right, I need to read the book. Now, this is the time where my whole thing about not wanting to read blurbs just falls apart, because when you're going around a bookshop, you do mooch and you do have a little pick, but what I mean is when I've got a book, I don't want to remember why I bought it. Generally, I buy books because of vibes I get from social media or just word of mouth or friends or whatever, but this one was just a blurred by, so I've got to be honest about it. It says, one day in April, the body of Owen Bousselet, a poet, is found drowned. As the investigation begins, 3 people find themselves haunted by him. Noah Lang, the medical examiner who performed the autopsy, his wife Kitty Lang, a psychotherapist, and Lolita Hammershoy, a ballet dancer and Owen's close friend. As the 3 of them become bound up in the mystery of what happened to Owen, their lives begin to interweave in both expected and unexpected ways. Meanwhile, Owen intervenes from the afterlife, desperate to find out his fate. Interiors is about how loss and desire shape our lives and about what waits beyond the borders of everyday life. I just think that sounds great, and it's why I love a really good indie bookshop where you get the books that kind of, you know, you get the commercial books, you get the books that maybe people who are really into books will love, but also you get the books that people who are really into books aren't expecting, and that is exciting. I blamed this next one on the lovely CJ Reads, who I adore, and it's Rabbit Island by Elvira Navarro, and it's translated by Christina McSweeney from Spanish. And it's short stories. You can't really see the cover. It's all like rabbit fur and the writing doesn't really show. But the way that CJ was talking about this, it just sounded so interesting. And again, I keep weighing on about how I want to read much more fiction in translation and much more short stories. I do seem to be buying a lot of short story collections in translation. I just need to get some. Also, it's slightly squidgy. I know that shouldn't matter, not in a damp way, but just like, I don't know, it's almost like in order to link up with the fur, it's got a slight softness to it. Then another book that I ordered from abroad or overseas is the aforementioned Billy Ray Belcour's A Minor Chorus, which is their debut novel, and I just thought, right, I want to get to it. I'm really intrigued by the Giller Prize. I would like to read a lot more books from the Giller Prize, including If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English by Noor Nagy, and this just sounds like amazing. In post-Arab Spring Cairo, two unnamed characters meet and fall in love. She's a nostalgic daughter of Egyptian immigrants returning to a country she's never been to before. He was a photographer of the revolution who's now unemployed and living in a rooftop shack. As their alternating perspectives unfold in blocks of taut poetic prose, their desire for each other, for the selves they strive to become through the other, take a violent turn. So I think this is going to be quite incredible. So we have that one. Then a book that I already had, but I saw this signed in foils and thought, right, I want it, was God's Children Are Little Broken Things by Araneze Ifekandu. And these are short stories of queer people's lives in Africa, and I think it just sounds amazing. Nigeria particularly, sorry, I should say. I've been wanting to read this, and when I saw it, I was literally going to check out to buy some other books in this mix, and I was like, oh no, I need that as well, because yeah, and it just been popped on there in front of my eyes. I also bought Layla and the Blue Fox by Kieran Mould Hargrave, illustrated by Tom DeFreston. I absolutely loved Julia and the Shark. The illustrations, again, look amazing, and I just know that the prose will be fabulous because it's Kieran, and yeah, very, very excited to get to this. One of the books that I bought in Dedic bookshop, I did also buy a copy of Animals at Night by Naomi Booth, but I've talked about that book before, so I haven't included it here. This isn't published by Dedic, it's probably published by Gaelic Press, but it's Orpheus Builds a Girl by Heather Parry, and Willow over at Books and Bow has raved about this and said it's one of their favourite books of the year. I think it's got a slight Frankenstein twist to it. I feel like I need to read Frankenstein finally. I haven't, and maybe I could read that and then this, and that could be quite interesting. I'd quite like to read a couple of books that are sort of spin-offs of other books and see how I get on. Not like necessarily a whole week of one themed book like that, but maybe like I said, Frankenstein and this, and then another classic, and then. Does that make sense? And actually, speaking of that, and books that have been rewritten from other books, we have India Night's Darling, which is a rewrite of Nancy Mitford. I can't remember. It's The Pursuit of Love, it says on the front. I'm really keen to read that. Absolutely love Nancy Mitford's writing. I love India Night. I had the pleasure of judging a prize with her, and she was a joy. Also, can we have a moment for that cover? It is ridiculous and delightful. I've just seen on Twitter, which I'm thinking of leaving because the whole Must thing is just getting ridiculous, but also I kind of want to stick around to watch it implode. Anyway, Bernadine raving about this, Bernadine Evaristo. It's Mannerism. I also bought this in foils by Yomi Sodi, and this is just meant to be the most incredible collection of poetry about what it's like to be a black British man, and I think this is going to be utterly phenomenal, and I can't wait. Why have I waited? I don't know. Another poetry collection I got, which I'm very excited about because otherwise I wouldn't have bought it, from the small press Broken Sheep Books, is Andre Bagou's Narcissus. And Andre Bagou's essays I read, was it last year or the year before, I really loved. I've dipped into his short stories and I need to get back to that. But this is his poetry collection. I just think what a diverse, incredible author. I've enjoyed all the short stories I've read so far. I enjoyed all the essays, and when I flicked through this and read a couple of the short poems, I love those. So a potential favourite new author, which is always very exciting. Then, guess what? More short stories. It's Bliss Montage by Limberlost, which I have seen pretty much everyone, well, not everyone, but a high percentage of people I follow on Instagram talking about and raving about. I still haven't read Severance. It's on my shelves. I feel like I need to read that at some point, but then I might just read this short story collection first. I feel like 2023 is going to have to be the year of short stories. Maybe I should try and read a couple of short stories a day in 2023. Who can say? I'm just going to pop those down there now because, yeah. Now, the next 5 books, I bought from readings just before I'd heard all the hoo-ha that was going on. I have now stopped buying books from readings until things, I just paint myself in the eye, until everything's sorted out with stuff pay and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also trying not to get involved, but also trying to do my due diligence. I think that's what due diligence means. But I treat myself to several books, the first of which is the Australian edition of Limberlost by Robbie Arno. I cannot believe I have not read this yet, because I love his writing so much that I'm scared. Like, I'm massively scared. That's so ridiculous, scared of a book. But like, or scared of a reading experience. Imagine what first world problem, savage. What I mean is, like, if this isn't good, I'll just be devoed. So there we go. That's that. I don't know what it's about. I don't care. I'm holding it to my heart because I've just loved his previous book so much. I just feel like I'm going to love it. So there we are. There's that. Then I picked up, actually, Diana reads Seeing Other People. This was a bit of a chance purchase because I bought Love and Virtue, which got rave reviews. And so then when I saw this, I was like, oh, she's got another book out already. It was the book that tipped me over the cheaper postage. So I did it. I think at the moment, this might be now one of my most anticipated reads of the year. It's Iris by Fiona Kelly McGregor, and this is I think it's based on true historical events, but it's it says, who is Iris Webber? A thief, a fighter, a wife, a lover, a scammer, a schemer, a friend, a musician, a worker, a big-hearted fool, a woman who's prevailed against the toughest gangs of the day, defying police time and time again, yet is now trapped in a prison cell, guilty or innocent. And I just think that sounds blinking brilliant. I heard about this through Hannah Kent's Instagram. She'd read it and said it was incredible, and I was like, oh, I just really, really, really need to read it. And I really do. I'm really, really excited for this one. 1930s, what does it say? Couldn't say it. Rollicking through the underbelly of 1930s slightly grog Sydney. Oh, that just sounds brill. I feel like I'm just going to love this book because I love the author so much and I loved their debut so much too. This is The Seven Skins of Esther Wilding by Holly Ringland, who is utter joy. I've actually been chatting to her on Instagram this very morning, and she described herself as dressing up like a gladiator of joy to go on the book tour for this, and that is so her. She is a gladiator of joy, and we call our chat that we have our unicorn stream of consciousness chat, and I just love her, and I just know this is going to be emotional, powerful and brilliant. And I love The Lost Flowers of Alice Holt, which I think she was done so much better here in the UK. It's done amazing in Australia, as has this, and I'm very excited for it. And then last but not least from readings, but then we've got a few more to go, I have the quarterly essay Not Waving, Drowning, Mental Illness and Vulnerability in Australia by Sarah Krasnosteen. I absolutely loved Sarah's book, The Trauma Cleaner. I also really love The Believer. I would like to reread The Believer. This is non-fiction. I am going to be reading this for non-fiction November. I just want to get this in my brain. Yeah, I think she's absolutely brill. This was a random buy, but one that I'm kind of really keen for. I don't know if this is going to be cozy, but I think it's going to be fun and fast and frolicky. And that's Cat Lady by Dawn O'Porter. We've all known a Cat Lady and we've probably all judged her too, but behind the label, what if there's a story worth 9 lives? Excellent back cover image. This is a frequent occurrence in my house. So yeah, looking forward to that. Then something completely different, because this sounds super duper serious. This is My Government Means to Kill Me by Rasheed Newson. And it's just meant to be, utterly incredible. Like, everyone I know who's read it has just been completely bowled over by it. And it's about a young black man in 1980s America, possibly New York, and what happened at that time. And I think it's going to absolutely break me, but I think it's going to be a super duper important read. And again, possibly I've got like one of my books of the year feels about this for some reason. Then a bit of a whim purchase, possibly in the supermarket, which I've already got to stop doing. Nick Grimshaw's Soft Lad. Andy Oliver had mentioned it on Instagram, and Dua Lipa had mentioned it on Instagram with the space of 24 hours, and I was like, okay, there we go, I'm influenced. And I do want to read more memoirs of queer people of all different walks of life, and more importantly want Nick Grimshaw's jumper. If anyone knows where that jumper is from, I need it, I want it, I must have it. So we have that. I meant to read this for Halloween. All of my plans of reading this year have just gone to pot. I'm really looking forward. I don't want this year to be over because I don't like to wish away autumn, but I am just very ready for 2023, if I'm honest. It's My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, author of Horror Store, which I've just seen various different thoughts on, which is interesting. I've heard various different things. People either really love him or really don't. It's going to be, I think, a TV show or a film, if it's not already. And obviously, well, I say this with every book I'm at, I must read the book before I watch it. I then invariably don't read the book and don't watch it. So, but we'll see when we get to that one. And penultimately, I treated myself to The Secret Diaries of Charles Ignatius Sancho by Patterson Joseph, which is a historical novel set in the 1970s, the 1740s. No, it doesn't say 1740s. It says 1740s there, and I just saw 1726. Anyway, I'm intrigued by this. It's a book about what it was like to be black in Georgian London, and that's not something I read about, and I want to read more historical fiction, so this seemed perfect. As did a book that I have read already, this big book, speaking of Sugar Bear earlier. This is Something About a Bear by Jackie Morris, and it's just the most gorgeous book about bears. From big bears to teddy bears and everything in between. Loved it. I thought it was just absolutely beautiful, and it's a book that I'll turn to again and again, which has happened with a few picture books actually. At 40, who knew I would get back into picture books, but I am. So there we go. So those were all the books that I got in October. I was going to say, should I do haul videos in 2 parts going forward, but I don't think that's the right thing. I've just got to rein in a little bit, and I will be in part. I mean, partly I think I was, like I said, emotional buying because I wasn't very happy with just being ill and work and blah blah blah, but I'm going down to 2 days a week from the end of the month after I've had a little bit of annual leave, which I'm currently on at the moment. I think that will, well, financially change things, but also just I'll have more time and more space for my brain and just looking after myself a bit better and all that, but also implementing more boundaries and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, hopefully it won't be so bad or so long in the future. Although normally I don't complain about a long one. Oi, oi! Anyway, I'm going to go now, but I will speak to you all very, very soon. Bye!